players or teams or robots. Build a table of 5. Going down, you go down. All right, took in the house. I want to explain concisely but effectively what I call the camshaft, which I used to call the grid, but for the accommodating and assigning, 6 to infinite numbers of players. I don't care if they're robots, people, or whatnot. And this would work for any society that wants to interact and quote-unquote play a game. By game, I mean, an interaction with rules. And in the particular, as far as the kinkiki championship per se, but I believe this would also apply to any kind of social interaction, whether, like I said, it's with aliens or people or whatnot. Players or teams or robots. I recommend that the maximum number of players or teams, when I say players, that could mean teams. No matter how big the team is, it could be Microsoft, and they got 132 people that are saying we're on the Microsoft team, but they're going to make a decision during the game as the Microsoft team. Let's say that you got a few to countless numbers of players / teams that want to play for the championship, and you've got either me, nerd with a piece of paper and a pen, or a high-tech smartphone or whatever. How do you assign the teams or players that want to play 2 tables of 5? Of course, if the numbers don't divide by 5, you will end up having 1 or the 2 tables with 3 or 4. But you assign 5 players or teams to each table, and the tables play simultaneously. And this is, like I said, acts like a camshaft, and it can accommodate anyone at any time. But you're looking at who is here now and what is your current championship score. How many championship points do you have? Which is not to be confused with how many points in the game, in an individual game. No, this is in your championship. This is about your championship points. And I divide this as a central, a column really, and rows. And the one thing that I want to add is that everyone is always invited to play. When it comes to the kinkiki game and its derivatives, everyone is always invited to play. But the idea is that the system is devised so that even somebody that doesn't know how to play, not only the game per se, but the champion players or teams or robots per se is designed so that within a couple of games, 2 or 3 games, you can become the champion. Okay, because, and this is important, if you go to kinkiki.com, the numbers may change a little bit. I might fine tune them, but I'm pretty set on the fact that if you win a game, the player or team that wins a game gets 4 championship points. If you bust the game, the player or team that busts the game gets 3 championship points. If you tie the game, that's an all-player tie. Everyone in the game gets 1 point. And as far as being able to jump up in the championship, what allows you to become a champion within 2 or 3 games, no matter how many entities or people want to be part of the championship, you will have a chance to jump up in the championship and become a champion in 2 or 3 games, simply because if you sit. If memory serves me well, check kinkiki.com. But if memory serves me well, when you start let's say you start the game, at least 6. It could be thousands, but at least 6 championship points behind the top championship score player or team in that game. What happens is, if you tie that game, you jump to -5. You jump to 5 points behind that person or team in the championship. If you bust the game, you end up only players or teams or robots 2 championship points behind them in the championship. Which the whole point is that if you bust 2 games in a row and they don't, then you become the champion, or at least you beat their score if you're not playing as the champion. But you're playing with somebody at the table that's got the higher championship score than you, and if you win that game, you end up at -1 in the championship from them, 1 championship point behind them and the championship. Which means that if you bust or win another game, and they don't, you're the champion, lo and behold. So how would you accommodate and assign everybody and assign tables? So let me show you this grid, which acts like a camshaft. Okay, there is a column which indicates the score, the championship score, the championship points of the players or entities that are present and want to play now. Okay, and then there's a separate one for the beginners. It's just one row, and the column shows you the championship points. The row shows you how many people, players that want to play now have that particular championship score right now, and we got to decide who sits at what table. So you start at the top, okay? If you see gaps in the points, players or teams or robots, it's because right now there's nobody, like for example between 1406 and 1399 championship points. If there's a gap, and this form would accommodate, you know, to fill more, but it's because right now presently there's no one that wants to play that is a score between 1406 and 1399. And what you have is, right now you would have, for example, 2 people that they'd be champions. You can only have 1 champion, so they'd have to settle it, which they might settle by, they're going to end up on 2 simultaneous games. One is going to be on table 1, the other one's going to be on table 2, for example. If this one, the X's represent players, so you would actually, I put X to be neutral, but you would have, for example, Chris, Terry. You could have an icon or a symbol or an initial or a name, depending on your form. So these would not say X. Does it say Chris? Does it say Terry? Does it say Microsoft? Does it say the Trumps? Does it say the aliens? So each X here represents a player or team that currently wants to play for the championship. Players or teams or robots, and or whatever, but they're in the championship automatically, and that have that current championship score. So right now you would have 2 players or teams that are at tied at 1407 championship points. Then you'd have 3 players or teams that are tied at 1406. Then there's nobody else until we get to the championship score of 1399. There's 1. You got 5 at 888. I like that number, 888 championship points. And also this is designed so that, you know, people and entities can come in, and the rows could be, you could have 5 million over here, okay? It doesn't have to be 5. Trust me, the system with a robot or a smartphone works for however many numbers, okay, countless numbers. But right now, at this moment, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players or teams that have the score, and so on and so forth. So how do you assign the players to the tables that are playing simultaneously? And when I say tables, I might have said this before, but it's almost a metaphor for, because you could be playing this online, so it doesn't have to be a physical table, but it's for enabling everybody to accommodate, you know, 5 per game, 5% the simultaneous or semi-simultaneous game. So what you do is you always start with the top score, the first in line. Think of this as a line of people that want to play, okay? And a line of teams that want to play. How do you accommodate for everybody? If this is a line, first you go to the top score. Who's in line? There's 2 players or teams in line. So you take the first one in line, and that's going to go to table 1. I'm going to call it the head of table 1. Doesn't mean that the first player to go in the first turn of the game. I call it the head of table 1. And then what you do is you don't see who's next in line with that score. You see players or teams or robots. See who's next in score down the column. Go down the column. Don't go right. Go down the column of the camshaft. So you get 1406 championship points. That goes. The first one in line is going to be also on table 1. Go down the column. First in line. There's only 1. 1399 on to table 1. 888 on first in line. It's got 888. Wants to play now. Goes to table 1. Now notice we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We want a table of 5. And so at this point, since you always have to give a beginner a chance to become champion, you skip down the column.
What's at the center of the hub?
All the way to the separate section for beginners, which beginners have 0 points. You could have players, like you have 2 players in line that have 0 points. If they're not, a beginner is somebody that doesn't know how to play the game in terms of how the rules work. These 2 that have 0, the beginners also have 0, but these 2 have already, at 0, have already played, so they're not beginners. So we go to the beginner, somebody that does, or, you know, they lie, but in
players or teams or robots.
They say they don't know how to play. That's okay. Don't worry about it. If we deem or you state that you're a beginner, you're a beginner. Start with 0 points, but you're a beginner. So are there any beginners? Yeah, we have 3 beginners in line. So we put the first beginner in line on table 1, and now we have 5 on table 1. What you do then is table 1 can start to play, and who's next in line? You go back to the top. So back at the top, we got, again, 1407, somebody in line. They're going to be the head of table 2. Go down to the next score. Same thing. 1406 is going to be a player on table 2. 888 is the next highest score where there's somebody in line. Goes on table 2. I think you get this, but let me follow this through. 219 goes to table 2. Where was it? Next down the score, first in line at 75 points, goes to table
players or teams or robots.
2. Let me not make it X squared, let me make it. And, okay. Table 2, and incidentally, I'm doing this, but if you were to do this with a computer in hand, you wouldn't necessarily have to write 1. You could just delete the person from the form, cross it out, block it out, because they're gone now. They're starting to play the game at table 1. So how many do we have at table 2? We've got 1, 2, 3. Let me make sure it looks like a 2. 219. Sort of looks like a 2. See what happens?
Players or teams or robots.
Okay, does that look like a 2 now? Sorry about that. Okay, 219, 2. So we got, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, sorry about, I see I made a mistake on the 75. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 75. We gotta wait. Check for the beginner. Yep. So, let's see how that works. So now we got a beginner at table 2. They start the game. And so on and so forth. I'm going to do this real quick. 3. So
players or teams or robots.
That if I notice something that I got to bring up, I will. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we got somebody from the line at 22 championship points. We skip the beginner. Okay, 1. So now we've got at table 3. We took all the beginners. There's no more beginners in line. But anyway, let's go back to the top. Everybody's been assigned the table. We're looking to start table 4. Okay, so table 4, head of table. Somebody that's got 888 points. And bear in mind that, okay, so say you're at table 4. The head of the table's got 888 points. Then the next person at the table has got 75 points. There's a couple of good things that happen. Say that you're the, okay, let's keep this up. Somebody at 22 points. That makes it 4 people at, or the players or teams at table 4. 1 at 21. No more big, so now we got 4 people at players 4. And what happens is, that, let me double check. Okay, 1, 2, 3
players or teams or robots.
4, if I haven't made a mistake. This is where I should check for a beginner. If a beginner has not arrived, if the beginner arrives, then they go to table 4. But if a beginner has not arrived, then let's go back up to the last one that we put on table 4 and keep going down the column. There's somebody that's got 4 points, and that concludes, that gives us 5 players for table 4. So that's how it works. And then the next table would be, oh, let's pretend somebody just arrived and they've got, let's say 900 points, okay? So that's where I'm gonna write that in now. Somebody with 900 points, and of course the form, if it's electronic, it's easy to accommodate. All of a sudden, we're starting table 5. I got 900 points. Okay, so we always want to start with whoever's present wants to play and has got the most points. So that'd be, I'm going to say there's 1. There's your head of table 5. See how that goes? And then, so 888, there was 1 person. Oh, let's say that they've gone home. They got tired or they got pissed.
Players or teams or robots.
Okay, block them out. And then somebody from 22 points, table 5. See how this works? Okay, now let's pretend that now I'm actually going to give them names. Okay, let's pretend that the two ones that the two players. Let's do it this way. Okay, we're going to call I call them X for simplicity, but let's say that at 1407 there was team A. Okay, let's say that was A. I'm going to go with B. Let's say that was team A, player B, and just, I'm not going to fill them all up, obviously, so I'm going to say, let's say that the second one that was in line, we're going to call it C. That was in line, their team or player C at 1406, and they're playing, let's say, for example, okay, so we've got 2 games going, okay, table 1,
Players or teams or robots.
table 2. Let's say that at table 1, the game ends as a tie. So what would happen is that, I'm just going to look at player A, but the same would apply for everybody else that was table 1. But table A was the co-champion, so to speak. So they gained 1 point. But let's say that, you know, table 2 finishes their game first. And C won the game, or busted the game. C busted the game at table 2. So they got they gained 3 championship points with a bust. So they go to 1409. So we adjust, we add 1406 plus 3 gives us 1409. Okay? 1409. Okay? Okay, so now C has finished the game. C has busted the game, has gotten 3 points, has moved to 1409. So we blot out or delete C on the form at 1406. Okay, and C goes to 1409. So now C, team or player, holds the highest score at 1409. And then let's say that A, that was a table 1, tied the game. I'm not going to adjust everybody, but they would get 1 point, so they go to 1408. Okay, see how that works? So now we would blot out A, black it out, and A would move right there to 1408. See how that works? And what I really love, I haven't tested this, is that people can switch teams. So whether it's the leader of the team that decides who can join the team at any time in the game, and you can switch even in the middle of the game, okay? Or it's majority rules, but you could have
Players or teams or robots.
Somebody that switches, and what counts is what happens at the end of the game. So if at the end of the game you switch from team C to team Z, from team B to team Z with the approval of team B, if you switch from, okay, I'm getting confused. If you switch teams with the approval of the team that you switch to, and you're with that team at the end of the game, and that team loses, wins, ties, or whatever, each individual in the team is gonna get the championship points for that game. So, for example, if that team busts the game, everyone on that was on the team at the end of the game, that was officially on the team at the end of the game, each one gets 3 championship points. Okay, so it's a fully accommodating system. So at 1409, Team T.
Players or teams or robots.